sense sphere. You must listen to our demands.
Yeah, fancy a bop. The Doctor Who at the proms just happened. So, welcome again. Gosh, it's time is flying, isn't it? Gosh, we're almost at the end of summer in the Northern Hemisphere, it feels like. Gosh. So, let's have a look. We have just had the Doctor Who proms at the Royal Albert Hall in London. The third one that I'm aware of. I see the crowds, I see fans flocking to shake RTD's hand, and I wonder, is Doctor Who still as popular as it ever was? Or, have I got it wrong? Or are these events distinct and different? I mean, what do the normal public think when they see the Mondasian Cybermen next to the glitzy glam rock Cybermen, the Cyberlords? I mean, if you look at that photograph, if I just make it bigger there, look, if you just look at it, those dark Cyberlords, if you look at them, it is like glam rock, and it just it betrays everything I think that the Cybermen were supposed to be. They're not vain, they're functional, they're about survival. Just seems to be run, and it's a run look. Anyway, as I always promise, the Doctor Who Detox is a show to let it all out. Yep. Let it all out before the weekend. Refresh, recharge, get it out your system, get your moans out now. So we'll do that. And we'll eject them as efficiently as the TARDIS ejected the Zero Room in Castrovalva. We might mention news items like RTD's bi-generation plan. Yes, he's been talking again. RTD's Sutekh illustration, which Screen Rant showed recently. But we will get it out and move on. To help in that therapy, we will have tasty nostalgic items like a mini focus on the Leisure Hive that was broadcast 44 years today, and also ask which story of Doctor Who would you select to sell it to a friend. They've never watched Doctor Who. Where the hell have they been? It's a tried old question, isn't it, with Doctor Who fans? Would it be Talons of Wen-Chian? Would it be Genesis of the Daleks? Would it be Rose, the 11th Hour, the Church on Ruby Road? What would you choose? I mean, I think it is an interesting one to consider. So we'll have a look at that. And so let's just do the quick bit of housekeeping. We may have a saloon on RTD's final part of his SFX magazine interview. So, look out for that. We have our Sunday show with some of my original panelists returning. So do switch on those notifications and give us a like. Check you've subscribed. You know what it's like, when you're watching various outlets out there, and sometimes you discover a stream and you forget while you're enjoying it that actually you haven't subscribed. So just have a check. All those who have, I appreciate it. Thanks for your support and hopefully your approval. So with the housekeeping almost done, remember, DM me at SensorSphere, email me at sensorsphere@gmail.com. Don't ask me why the there has to be there, but it was. So let's get started. So in our chill out, in our big chill out, let's have a look here. My advice on the Doctor Who Detox Hour is, yes, procrastinate, delay the housework, delay doing that homework, delay doing that project for work. Sit back and let's enjoy with, our Doctor Who friends, and they're going to be coming on in a moment. Yeah. Just like that Dalek is there. I mean, honestly, my comfort blanket would be the good old giant robot. When you were a kid and you thought, I'm going to get that out, going to play all the rest of it and forget the world. I have to say, my giant robot still looks like that. And I played with it. I did. but it was quite a robust model. I have to say the Cyberman isn't robust. It's lost all its luster. It's lost all its glamour. It's lost all its shine. It's you couldn't sell that for 5p nowadays, I tell you. So let's get my first friend on. So here we go. Here he is. Hi, Dwayne.
Ah,
Are you historical?
hey, how you
I'll
going?
just shock you there, you know. Have you
Yeah,
got
I've got my Arato toy. Yeah, you can just get those squidgy ball things, and
Ah,
they,
yes.
yeah,
Oh, I know.
easy to get a hole in them though.
Now, can you see this? Can you see this? Let me just line this up for you. Can you imagine? Now, I know when I used to live in Brisbane, that can you imagine that on the Bruce Highway? If I was going further down, it's the Hume Highway. But if you're in Tassie, what would be the highway called there?
The Bass Highway or the Midland Highway.
There you
Yeah.
go. Can you imagine that truck? Look at it. All the Doctor Who and the Daleks, movie Daleks on the back of a truck. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I would have to stop. Look at that.
It would be a car stopper, wouldn't it?
Oh, I'd follow that car. I'd follow that lorry. I really would. Honestly, that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, you just look at them. Look at them lined up. And of course, we're not seeing the color on this shot.
Yeah, they're very colourful, those movie Daleks, aren't they?
Yeah. And I like the bulkiness of them. They were very impressive. But to complete our lineup, I will bring our other friend on, Cybermat Strikes. Hello, Cybermat.
Hey, gang, how's it going?
So what?
I like that.
Yours not the
I like
Hume
that.
Highway, though. Where are you? You're just a bit more.
Yeah, it's close enough. I travel on there most days.
Okay, well, there you go. My geography's
North
okay.
of Sydney, it's the Pacific. South of Sydney is the Princess.
There you go. You see, I was only stuck on the Bruce Highway all the time, you know, brizzy snarl-ups. Well, here we go. Look at it. You were going to say something, Cybermat, about the Daleks, weren't you there?
Oh, no, I think you'd certainly have a bit of a pile-up with the rubberneckers with
Yes.
that spectacle.
Classic. Well, the Daleks, we know what a brilliant model. I mean, look at that from Dalek Invasion of Earth. I have to say, I think Keir Starmer would want that now to find all the far right thugs in the streets, and just have Daleks parading everywhere. You know how Britain's gone a bit weird at the moment. So yeah, I feel as though we will have Daleks on the streets at this rate.
When you see
like
the
the
skirting
purity
that
of that.
high,
Yes,
it does definitely remind me of of bumper cars. So perhaps that was the appeal too. That, you know, there was that reminder of bumper cars, and my kids love Dodgems, and I still like Dodgems, even though it costs so much to have a single ride these days. But, you know, back then it would have been a little bit cheaper.
I know what you mean. It's almost as if, well, this came first before the Dalek movie, didn't it? And so yeah, that bulk. It was genius, though, in the second story to have them on Earth, wasn't it? That was genius to get them off Skaro and just do that. I mean, these iconic shots, we've seen them all, you know, across the London Bridge, etc., Westminster Bridge, that sort of thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the Dalek coming out of the water. That. Let's have a look. Now, here was the Dalek Invasion of Earth. If we just want to make it a bit bigger, there we go. I mean, look at that. You know, the genius of it is every Doctor Who fan just wants to be inside there. I mean, I'd have given anything to be a Dalek. And I'm sure, did you in Australia at them amusement arcades, did you have the Dalek machine where you sat in it and, you know, you paid 10p or 10 cents and it would make some sounds and you'd just basically sit in it and pretending you're in the Dalek, a bit like Clara was?
No Daleks, no. But I was just trying to recognise the face on the Dalek operator there and wondering whether it's Kevin Manser, because he moved to Sydney and he would often come to local events, fan events.
Yeah.
So I got to meet him in the 90s, it would have been. He was very involved with the Sydney fans.
Gosh. Well, that's intriguing. You've got a keen eye there to see whether that is one of your fellow compatriots. But that, yeah. I wish I could zoom in. I'll try and zoom in next time to see if I can get a bit closer for you.
Just realizing that background there's a giant mat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, that's clever.
It is. I always like to compare Doctor Who and the Dalek invasion movie to actually what they did with the actual series, because they had to be genius. I mean, look at the. I mean, gosh. I mean, I'm Dalek obsessed today, but look at that. Smoking. We're banning smoking. Have you already banned smoking outdoors in Australia?
Not outdoors.
Not outdoors. We're about to maybe do that here. That it's. I don't know which Labour government's trying to beat each other around the world at the moment. That they certainly are. But yeah, all that smoking is going to be banned in Britain. That won't, especially indoors. Those Daleks will be illegal. Never again.
Actually, I think I saw a headline today that here in Tasmania, they're going to go against the federal laws and make the state laws for vaping the strictest in the country, I think. So there's some new vaping
It is
laws coming
interesting,
in.
The hate on for the vapes at the moment.
Yeah, that looks as though a vape, doesn't it? That looks as though Daleks are vaping, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I found this one. This one, can I just show you? Oh, look at that. When you know me, when I get a color one, absolutely love it. And I love the fact that they're just in their normal state of dress and they just seem to be looking around the set. Now, what I saw, and I see what you think, I think this is Dalek Master Plan Volcano. And you can see all the molten lava and all the rest of it. I mean, what a shot. I mean, beautiful shots. Keeping with my Dalek theme. I could look at. Is there a book out there where you can see all the behind the scenes shots of those 60s? I mean, real behind the scenes. Because I tell you what, I just want to. I want to hear the conversation. I want to be there.
I had that book called The 60s. Was it Howe,
Yes.
Stammers and Walker? Was that the name of the? I had that, and then I got together with a lady who had a toddler, and that toddler came and just ripped that whole book apart. It was I was very, very cranky that day, let me tell you. That was a great book.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't know. This is our Doctor Who detox. This is getting us stressed. Well, I'm just going to finish off on Daleks. Look at this. You see, we'd go for a day to Blackpool. You know that Doctor Who fans will talk about the Blackpool exhibition. They'll talk about the Longleat exhibition. But look at that. I mean, when you went over there for the Blackpool illuminations, and sometimes there was a big Doctor Who presence. Look at that. I mean, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I wasn't a kid at this stage, but there's something about the illuminations. It's a bit like your Sydney Harbour Bridge at New Year. It's fantastic to see. So have you been to Blackpool and seen the illuminations? Have you been when you were younger, did you manage to get to the exhibition?
Me? No.
Yeah.
Never been.
Me neither.
Yeah. So I mean, I know I'll see in the thread in a minute who's actually been. I can't remember. I know when I talk to some streamers, they've got such memories of the Blackpool exhibition. I remember going downstairs and I remember seeing the Hand of Fear in the corner and stuff like that, but I can't remember much. But I do remember the lights and I do remember seeing the Zygon and all the rest of it. And
the only exhibition I've been to, I went to the Doctor Who experience in 2000 it was at Olympia, so it was 2011, I think, and I went to that version of the experience. Is that what it was called, Doctor Who Experience, before it moved to Cardiff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was at Earl's Court, I think. I saw the one at Earl's Court. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there was some stunning ones now. I mean, that was only a couple of years ago. They've still got some of these illuminations up there, and they seem to have them up all year because I was there in the summer, and there's the TARDIS. And you can play around and you can have some great shots. But yeah,
is that scale?
No, that's it. That's really big. That because I'm obviously doing that. I'm doing that Leela, Tom Baker, Chris Boucher, Robots of Death moment. But yeah, lovely Blackpool, the exhibition. So, talking about exhibitions and getting people together. Yes, I haven't forgotten, Dwayne, Sirens of Audio. How are you doing on it's only a week. It's only a week before you've got Fraser.
It's 2 weeks. Oh no, it's next week. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. It's only a
I'm,
week
I'm,
from this coming Sunday.
I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
reminding
fantastic.
you. Just
Yeah,
reminding
thank you.
you.
I'm glad you did. I would have missed the plane otherwise.
So everybody,
Who's that in the comments talking about Sylvester coming later this year? We want as many people as possible to get to Fraser and Katie too, because those events are going to be great as well.
yeah. So they're
Unfortunately, the Hobart one that's mentioned there, that has unfortunately been cancelled, but all the other ones are still going at the moment.
So yeah,
Adelaide's looking a bit in doubt, but it depends on how many more people get tickets. But all the others are definitely going ahead.
this is it. It's a
Yep.
classic. If you arrange it, people need to think, oh, don't prevaricate too much. Just book it. Yeah. So there you go. You've got Fraser and Katie, Janet and Sylvester. Those dates are obviously in November, but the one I was just showing you then is, as I was saying to Dwayne, it's a week away for Fraser coming. So there you go. Hopefully that really is going to be fun. I'm dying to hear. Please come on and tell us what it's all been like. If you
we'll
can.
do.
So there you go. Please, everybody, they're there. So, here we go. So part of our detox, you have to let things out. I'm doing therapy, remember? So, the news is the news. I'll ask what you think. So basically, RTD, Chatterbox RTD, he said that the Doctor Who has become bigger and bolder to keep up with the times. When we first started in 2005, we were the only show, so it was easy. Now it's a busy market, so we have to keep up. With the series having inspired so many other dramas, we have to go big to keep it interesting. I've had the bi-generation idea for ages, and it was the perfect time because nobody expected it. We needed to remind people that there are no fixed rules. Davies firmly believes that once you say something is impossible, we do it. Bi-generation can't happen, we did it. David Tennant can't come back, he did. Nothing's forbidden, that's what this show is. Do you know what, you two, when I do a stream and we happen to mention bi-generation, the analytics go off the scale. Honestly, absolutely go off it. So bi-generation is a boil on every Doctor Who fan's backside that needs lancing, it seems to me. What do you think of his latest iteration here about what is this? 2005 was a very competitive market. This is when it was still Saturday prime time to actually take other shows on. He makes it sound...
I'm still confused by him saying that we were the only show. There was no other shows in 2005.
Is he saying that
there was plenty on?
Is he saying that now it's...
That is the dumbest comment I've heard him honestly say. That is, on all levels, a stupid thing to say.
I'm assuming, I'm trying to get into his head, that he's actually saying there's more Doctor Who franchises out there at the moment. Lots of Doctor Who, when I said Doctor Who, science fiction competition.
Yeah, you might be thinking of Disney, Star Wars, or Marvel, those kind of things as well. Star Trek wasn't going at the time either, was it?
No. So I don't know. The thing is, it's that last bit when he says, once you say something's impossible, we do it. Bi-generation can't happen. Well, nobody said those words because nobody had heard of Had you two ever heard in any fan fiction of bi-generation? I'd never heard of that.
No.
So I can promise RTD, I never said bi-generation can't happen because bi-generation didn't exist. So why was he challenged to do it? Because nobody was saying you can't do. Can I just ask you two lads? I'll ask Cybermat at first. With regeneration, am I getting this wrong in retrospect? Because the War Games regeneration was different to the 10th Planet. Planet of the Spiders was different. Logopolis was different. Are we getting a bit kind of precious now, saying you can't mess with regeneration? Has it always been messed with? Or is the regeneration process just something that is in the narrative and we get on with it? Whereas now it feels to me like regeneration is really getting played with and doctored.
Look, I think it works as a one-off spectacle But then it sets up all these other problems, like the fact that they had to duplicate the TARDIS in such an idiotic way with the mallet. You know, and then you've got the problem of, well, which one's the real Doctor? It's just one of those things where I think I get why he did it. I think there's a few reasons, but you know, having a positive spin on the fact they were going to have to kill Tennant off straight away, and get him off screen. But at the end of the day, I think the damage done by having the Doctor copied in such a cheap way, I think, yeah, it's going to leave a rough taste there for years to come.
Yeah, what do you think, Dwayne? I mean, am I being too critical? Has regeneration always been messed with by writers, or do you sense something different nowadays? As Paul Richards says, regeneration was a great way of saying goodbye to the Doctor and hello to the new one. Now there's one hanging around.
I don't think you say there were different circumstances surrounding the regenerations in the classic series, which is true, but the principle behind the regenerations was generally the same. There was the reason that the old body had been damaged or worn out and a new one needed to take over. I think the fourth into the fifth Doctor was a fascinating idea, and it's something that I immediately thought of in terms of the bi-generation, and it could have worked that way. So we've got two Doctors going at the same time, but the first Doctor somehow is going to go into the future and regenerate somewhere down the track, and the younger Doctor is going to appear there somehow, and there's going to be some kind of timey-wimey thing, just like the Watcher was. That was my thought when I first saw it. But the problem was when Russell came out and said, no, all the Doctors have changed. That is the problem. That destroyed that idea. I could have quite easily coped with the bi-generation until he opened his big mouth after.
Yep, you're spot on, Dwayne. That's exactly. I coped with it quite fine right up until I heard Russell's rationale for where he was going with it. It's like, no, what? That's like the doggo on the TARDIS.
It's it's just this. I mean, I've got the two quotes here. The one I read out, but then the one he had in the Doctor Who magazine around the giggle, and he said, you know, it's going to rock the world what happens in the episode. And I'm thinking, are you just trying to? This is the criticism that JNT possibly unfairly got. You know, trying to grab headlines with stunt casting. You know, that criticism, and you think, are you really just trying to cause waves now because you can't actually just set up a lovely structure for a series, a season arc, with good, clever stories and interesting places to take us rather than shock and awe? Because it feels like in a lot of these discussions, RTD seems to be saying, I need to shock people. Things always change. We never stand still. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I think you're trying too hard.
Oh, well, if he likes to do what people say he can't do, Russell, how about you deliver a really great season of Doctor Who in 2025
No, he can't do that. There you go. Challenge
It's
open.
impossible. Yeah. Now he has to do it.
So they, our detox is letting this out. I mean, by generation, like I said, if I watch this program back, I bet you the analytics at this point, it shoots up. People freak out about it. It obviously does need lancing all the time. So just to say hello to the thread, because obviously you're alive and well. It's very clear, and I've got to get the thread read or we're all dead. I've got to serve my customers. So let's have a look at some of them and see what they've been saying as we've started today. There are so many. There's one I can't read out. We know which one it is with his name. Mark Bolan would have been cool as Doctor Who, as would Bowie. I think, wasn't there a discussion that they had thought about Barry?
I think there was at some point.
Yeah, I think so too. Hunter Callan is just saying as part of the detox, just make it great again. I mean, we say great Daleks, Paul Richards. We don't want them brought back at the moment, do we? Because we don't know what they'll do with them. That's the fear. that guy from CT Alpha, the Sea Devils and Carnival of Monsters are my faves. They're your comfort blanket, are they? As you know, that was my joining point to Doctor Who, the Sea Devils. So yeah, I can easily agree with you on that one. David Harding, good to see you. They should make a poster of that shot of the two Daleks with Parliament behind it. I think you could do a lot of. Yeah, well, yeah, and the one I was showing, yeah, that there's a lot of satire possibilities are going on here, aren't there? Especially with what's going on in Britain at the moment. Let's have a look. We've got Paul Richards is alive and well. Good to see Heather WP again. She's a busy lady, but it's great that you've popped in. Rob Fellows, there was a ride in Dalek in Great Yarmouth once. Yep, 10p sounds about right. Late 80s. Yeah, I'm going back to the 70s, so it might have been 5p. But yeah, you sat in the Dalek in Scarborough. And I was Clara, not that I want to be, but you were sat inside the Dalek and it moved, I think, a little bit. And you just pressed some buttons and lights went on and off. It was a thrill for a 5-year-old, But yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Closest thing I got to was the Seventh Doctor pinball machine, I think, that was floating around everywhere.
That was awesome when they were everywhere.
Yep. You could almost guarantee every second place would have a Seventh Doctor pinball machine.
Yeah. Good to see Beeman. Good to see Lee Smith. Lee Smith talked about a Dalek fun fair would be cool. Paul saying that modern Daleks are too tall. I'm trying to think of the latest ones. They went through that skinny phase. The Sheffield Dalek. The Geordie one. I wasn't too sure about that one. So let's have a look. There's a few people who've been to the Blackpool exhibition they're talking about. Hello, Divine and Dragon. I think he's teaching. Otherwise, he'd be on. I know he'd be on. He says RTD revealed he was willing to destroy stakes, canon, and credibility. Did he say it in those words? I can't remember.
Success.
Yay! Adrian Sherlock, the Timeless Child is one giant dump on Doctor Who lore. This bi-generation gay doctor is another. Do you know what, Adrian Sherlock? We did a show, Big Controversies in Doctor Who. And I have to say, if I repeated that show now, like just, that kind of one of those items you do in the summer if you're not available, I think I couldn't do it. I'd have to update it because the Timeless Children, to me, doesn't seem to be the thing that affects me the most. As you say, the bi-generation and the sledgehammer making a second TARDIS, stuff like that, the rogue doctor romance, those sort of things have been more challenging to me. I don't know what the lads think about that, but I mean, if I asked you first, Dwayne, what to you as a Doctor Who fan, what is the thing that you are trying to erase and exercise out of your head that you saw?
Well, in some ways, the Timeless Children, I can still work out ways. It's still open enough to me that I can write it out of my own head canon. But there's some things in this era that seem to be there to stay, particularly because it involves the Doctor's character and him as a person.
Yeah.
I find it really irritating. I don't know if it's just me, if I'm just old and cranky, but I find it very irritating that everyone's, on all the big channels and the Doctor Who channel itself refers to the Doctor as they now.
Yeah.
Because to me there's only one of them, but they're using this modern terminology for they, but it makes no sense to me, and I find that in some ways more irritating than even the Timeless Children. Just little things like that, they all build up to make one big pile of annoyance. But yeah, but anyway, coming on here, it really helps. So thank you.
Well, this is it. I mean, we are the therapy for the fandom. Cybermat, is this something you could erase? You'd like to erase?
I was really hoping. I don't need erasure, but I was hoping that RTD would, if he was going to tidy it up and package it up, sort of move the story along. I still feel that someone could easily move the story along so that we're, it's palatable. I I was up for the division. I was up for a lot of what was going on in that season, right up until the end of that episode. Again, it was a bit like this season. It didn't have the payoff at the end, and then the only difference was that really felt like it. That last 10 minutes just was a big, oh, by the way, I'm going to make sure that no one can move on from this era. We're just going to completely rewrite everything to suit this new agenda. And I think that's probably a bit, to do with the bi-regeneration and some of the things of this season. I think people are reacting to the feeling that there are changes being made here that are going to have long-lasting impacts. And the notion that a Doctor doesn't have a character, it's whoever the person is that's playing the Doctor is the character, which is not true. I think all of us on this panel would say no. The Doctor absolutely had a character all these years, and it feels like this version is a divergence.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting when you, Dwayne, have your convention. Yeah, I'll call it a convention. When you have your gathering of fans, because as Ken Parker's saying here, just attended a Doctor Who convention. Almost all hated the finale, obviously, but there is some love for the middle of the season. So I'm guessing 73 yards. Ken, are you saying Rogue as well? I'm intrigued. What were you going to say, Dwayne?
I was going to say, in terms of the different eras, like, where I was saying the Timeless Children doesn't irritate me as much. Well, it kind of does, but I feel that the previous era was more down to incompetence. And I think that's why I find this era so frustrating, because I know RTD is competent. He is able to deliver because he's got a track record, whereas Chibnall never really had that in the first place. So that's just down to incompetence, and, you can just let that go. But it's harder to let go of RTD's. I'm looking behind Cybermat and I'm seeing his DVDs and books and toys, all that stuff that you've spent years collecting.
Yeah.
And RTD's come along and said, I don't care about you. I don't care about fans and how you feel about any of it. I'm just going to do whatever I like. And it doesn't matter what Cybermat's done, in terms of his fandom. It's just what he says goes. And I find that very annoying.
Not only that, Dwayne, the thing that I find offensive is that they act as though, there's something wrong with us or fans, that, we're in some way small-minded or something. We can't cope with these new concepts, and that's why we're having a problem with it. And it's like, no, all the way along, we've gone with the change. I've got as much 2005 stuff here. I've been along, I've been with this right through. And
look at the changes in the classic era. It's the same. There was so many changes all the way through. They were
exactly.
all fine.
And now, they want to get on and tell us, what's wrong with us. And I'm just thinking, well, you still haven't put the case, mate, of why what you're doing is so magnificent. And the only reason the middle of this season looks better than the rest of it is because it harkens back to happier times and happier eras, but it doesn't stand up to a rewatch, and it really doesn't have the payoff either. So
I'm intrigued. Yeah, I'm intrigued, and if I mean, Ken Parker's still there, so if I catch up with him, and I'm intrigued what they'd say. I can see 73 yards for half the story. When it became years and years, and we left the locale of the Welsh village, I think it lost its atmosphere, and it was a Dr. Light episode. You had a Dot and Bubble, which was a Dr. Light episode, but I didn't think it landed. And then you had Rogue, which obviously we've just mentioned all the problems. I can't imagine Doctor Who fans going, "That's fine." Even if they called it a one-off, you can have Doctor Who sometimes having a one-off kind of stylish change, but like Heaven Sent. But that was so out of character. It just challenged. And as a lot of people in the thread are saying, if you, as you said, Cyber, if you complain or you just say that doesn't normally happen, you're told that you're a phobe, possibly. That the Doctor has always been gay. RTD was kind of saying they were never the straightest of men, he said. What? You look at the Hartnell, Troughton, he seems to be absolutely really imprinting an ideology on something that was not there, and that's what I think is causing so much of the kickback. So yes, by generation, it's a great old wheeze. I thought it would be a laugh, he seems to be saying to me, but this nonsense he says in the third paragraph, we have to go big to keep it interesting. I'm sorry, we're Doctor Who fans of old. Horror fan rock. Just give us a few nice, decent sets in a lighthouse. That's all we needed. You don't, and even said that I think it was almost the same interview this last year. RTD said, if we don't have the Disney money, we could still make horror fan rock. Well, therefore, you don't have to go big. Sometimes I could do a saloon every day at the moment, showing inconsistencies in what he says. We have to go big to keep it interesting. Well, it didn't work, did it? I've had the bi-generation idea for ages. Why is beyond me. And it was the perfect time because nobody expected it. Nobody expected it. You've just completely changed the whole concept of the show. And it was interesting you said, Cyber Matt, that actually the bi-generation is two parts. There's the actual moment, and there's another Doctor Who out there just sat in somebody's garden and didn't help out with Sutekh. There's that problem. But the sledgehammer and the second TARDIS, I felt embarrassed. I mean, obviously I'm older now, but I'd have been embarrassed as a teenager. I'd have been embarrassed as a kid watching that. You know, you've put your investment, you know, I'm passionate. This is my show. And all your family know that. And then you think of your family watching that, and all you have to do is use this sledgehammer and a second TARDIS appears. This isn't Disney. This isn't Hocus Pocus. This isn't Harry Potter. I'm sorry, you've wrecked the whole concept in my head of what Doctor Who is.
Well, Brendan, also, RTD said, we've got things this season that's going to lock down the TARDIS and make sure that people can't question the authenticity of... Where's it? I haven't seen any evidence of that. I mean, at the end of the day, David Tennant's still the Doctor somewhere, and with the original TARDIS. So basically, Shooty's a copy and a copy of the TARDIS. So, you know, what are we watching? And his character is completely different. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, he's cemented a completely different show at the moment.
John Yulden made an interesting comment a while back in the thread and said that we're in an era where it's fashionable for TV makers to insult their audience. So it's not just Doctor Who, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, it's happening. In Star Trek, it's happening. Lord of the Rings is really interesting watching how that's playing out at the moment, because season 2, that's about to drop. But the original, the first season of Rings of Power was praised by all the critics, hated by the fans, and then at the end of it, the critics started turning around, and now for season 2, the critics have the review copies, they've seen it, and they've had enough of pandering to the TV people now, and they've started really bagging Rings of Power. So I wonder if things are shifting, because you've got mainstream media starting to turn and not really care about pleasing their media pals anymore. I wonder if that's going to flow on everywhere. I certainly hope so.
Because you can't build. Yeah. It's got to, because you can't rage bait a mainstream audience into watching your show. It's just not going to work.
The thing is, Cyberman. Yeah. The thing is, Cyberman. It's an interesting point you're both making, and John brought up. But the reason I didn't flash it up straight away is because I thought John's point, I can see it happening in politics as well. I can actually see that you have governments who don't actually deliberately listen to their country. We vote in governments wanting certain things to happen, and they will deliberately go, no, but we're going to do this, by the way. And you think, wow, it's as if, I mean, and there is a major moment in this country where you know that at least 50% of the nation has been insulted by what our Prime Minister said to us recently, that if we have issues about certain things in this country, we are far-right thugs. And isn't that the very same thing as you two were saying about we've got these lovies who are running media organizations who basically, if the fans don't like what they're serving up, they just slag off the fans?
I was going to say, Brendan, you've got the media as well feeding into that by sweeping and, covering up what the mainstream audience actually thinks. Because I think there's a lot more people out there that are having the same visceral reaction, and it's only going to be the fans like us that stick around and actually call it out and say, you look what you've done to the show.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to build a network or contracts or anything. So I do have that freedom on this stream. So I was interested, Dwayne, because I honestly didn't think I would be saying these things on this stream of mine. I really didn't. But there was a point in season 1 when I thought, actually, do you know what? On my little stream, I'm actually going to call it out now. I've just had it now. I'm sorry, but if we all stayed silent, everybody who has all these virtues and want to impose on ideologies, we're just going to have the show absolutely vandalized. And so I just thought, do you know what? I'm actually going to start calling out proper, Let's have a look. Sean Cryer. I can't sit through a full episode of this stuff. Haven't been able to since Smith took over. It riles me so much. I have to turn off. Sean, we're going to get on a tasty one now, so don't you worry. That with our detox is you've got to have that little kind of let go. Obviously, Sean Cryer, just thinking of what you've just said. Think about this. 44 years ago today, episode 1 of The Leisure Hive was broadcast. Now, we're talking about eras. We're talking about people making missteps, making right moves, etc. Okay, let's go to Dwayne first. The Leisure. You see, I only watched it last week again, so I feel right on this. So, Dwayne, where do you stand with all the changes? Did they all land? Where do you stand?
Well, I am an unashamed fan of the Williams era. However, I used to be a very serious teenager and young adult who thought that the Williams era got a bit silly. I now look back on it with lots and lots of affection. The changes in the Leisure Hive were really, really stark, weren't they? There was such a different change in style from one year to the next. But what an amazing change it was. The style of season 18 was so different. I think and the time it came as well, I think it was sorely needed. There are still some, some quirky Doctor Who things in there, like the revealing of the monsters under the mask. How they all fitted there, I don't know. But that's still, just as silly as it has been previously. But the music, the look of it, it seemed to be taking itself a lot more seriously. And I think for some fans, it still is that point where it really started to take itself seriously and for the better.
I mean, if I had John Daly on, John Daly always tells me about the Leisure Hive as one of his big ones. And watching it last week, I still struggle with it. And it was interesting because I was looking at the ratings, because let's be honest, I've got to be fair. I've just judged season 1. The ratings for Leisure Hive, then Meglos, and I think possibly State of Decay, they went down. It as fans, we thought, oh God, we needed the change. Yes, it pepped it up. And the music, everyone goes on about Peter Howell's music. Some people like the burgundy outfit and, all the things that changed. And there was an interesting change in the production values. There was a lot of interesting direction in Leisure Hive that changed. And you thought, oh gosh, this program does look a bit more expensive. But as Sadako 24 says, he struggled to get through it. I couldn't quite deal with this very sober, toned down, somber Tom Baker. I know they aged him as well, but you could say that was in the narrative, but I think it was a neat trick to control him, wasn't it?
I think sorry.
You're right.
No, I think in season 18, the they did get some powerful performances out of Tom through that season. But I suppose if you were geared up for the Williams era and the lightheartedness of the previous season, tonally this would have been a pretty big shift to come into as a mainstream viewer, I would imagine. That being said, I love this era, and I like Dwayne. I really like the Williams era as well. They're really entertaining for different reasons, and I must admit, I do appreciate Chris Bidbean's attempt at really trying to bring some disciplined sci-fi into the show as well at this point.
I mean, it's interesting. Robbie Bonham said, the Tom's Court is mentioned. But when I was reading about Leisure Hive, it said Tom Baker, Lalla Ward, Barry Letts, and Christopher H. Bidmead all protested against the decision to add question marks to Baker's shirts. They thought it was gimmicky. It's interesting that there was some kickback even on the cast about some of the changes, because I think it was so radical. There was such a change in style, wasn't there? That, you can see there was going to be some kickback. Dwayne, I mean, I can see what you're saying about Leisure Hive. Is there an area of Leisure Hive where you think it was too much all at once, or there was an element that you still didn't like, really?
Well, the one thing I still struggle with is I love the music suite, but they kept cutting to a space shuttle arriving shot in the music, and I could not work out what it was. It doesn't look like a space shuttle.
No.
And that always got me confused. I'm thinking, what are they trying to do here? So just little things like that. But there were really spooky elements in this too that I loved. I don't know. It's probably not the first story I go to when I watch something from season 18. But when I do, I always enjoy it more than I think I'm going to. I when I start watching it, I go, yeah, this is great. There's just when the lights are turned down, and I think one of the characters is about to get killed. Really spooky in some of those areas. But yeah, I think maybe Tom Baker has aged up. I didn't appreciate that at first. I thought that went on a bit too long. I didn't expect him to be aged up for he aged up for 2 episodes?
Yeah.
Altogether. But I think it's the cliff, because when I first saw the Leisure Hive, they were showing omnibus editions of the episodes. So I saw it all together with all the credits cut out, and that cliffhanger for episode 1 is probably one of the best cliffhangers of the season. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, all the limbs
getting ripped apart. Yeah.
I mean, it was too much of a shock for me at the moment. I have to say, I've got to be honest. I can't just rewrite my own history. I found it too much I was watching it thinking, oh my God, Doctor Who's very, very different. But as I also noticed when I was researching this, on the other side was Buck Rogers. And I swayed to Buck Rogers for a little bit. I think I missed a bit Meglos. I think I caught up with Meglos a bit later. So something about this new style just seemed either too polished or just a little bit different. And it didn't feel like my show exactly. So I, as a Doctor Who fan, did stray. Now let's have a look at what he's got here. Let's have a look. Yes, exactly. A little tweaky. What's up, Buck? That's the honest truth. So when everyone says, oh yeah, season 18, the Leisure Hive, and to me, I nearly wobbled, but Buck Rogers, after a while, I thought, oh, it's samey, I'll go back. So I started watching it again, I think from State of Decay proper, or maybe the Marshmen coming out of the water in full circle. It was repeated on Did You See on BBC Two, great cliffhangers in Doctor Who. And I don't know if that kind of got me back in to build up to the regeneration, which of course every Doctor Who fan doesn't want to miss. But Adrian Sherlock was just saying something that I just wanted to flash up because it's a funny debate, isn't it, in Doctor Who? I'm just thinking of where we've been with season 1, and Adrian Sherlock says the ratings were not a reflection of the show. And I appreciate you saying the quality was there in season 18, and maybe the ratings just didn't reflect the quality that was going on. If we have that argument allowed, then doesn't RTD get away with the same argument now?
Yeah. Well, Brendan, sorry, I wasn't obviously there at the time, but
You weren't there.
With the
I was.
with Tom's aged up, with Tom's aged up appearances there for 2 episodes, and bravo, I think, to them for keeping him aged up, because if people knew that he was regenerating, and you probably would have been left for 2 weeks thinking, oh, is this going to be the beginning of the end? Or would you have not known back then? Would that have been too far ahead with the lengths of seasons to actually know that Tom wasn't going to be around at the end?
I think I'm trying to be honest. I think I kind of knew he was leaving. Yeah.
So the fact that he was aged up like that and
Yeah.
it stuck for two episodes, that might have felt like you were, this was it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there was an element to that, and I'm digging into the back of my head here. I think yes, or is this a forced regeneration early? He's not going to last the whole season. It also brings up that other discussion for Doctor Who fans, which is I have a problem when the Doctor is aged. The Matt Smith Doctor in Time of the Doctor, I hated that bit. I hate
the Tweety Bird. The Tweety Bird.
Yeah, I was going to mention
that really irritated me at the time. I was like, this is so stupid.
I just don't. I know it's all timey-wimey and he's a Time Lord, but I don't like this playing around with the Doctor's age. I just don't. I also have to say, considering I like this time sci-fi program, I didn't like Stephen Moffat taking us back to Davros as a boy. I don't know why. There's certain things in time travel I seem to like, and these bits I don't. Okay, in the Leisure Hive, he was aged, and then we bring him back somehow, and miraculously, he gets to exactly the same age he was before.
Taking him back to where he was a boy wasn't as bad as having him open his eyes in that episode.
Yes, true. Keep me right.
I thought the one that I didn't mind the eye opening. I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Maybe we've been fooled all these years. But the one that really got my goat was when he pulled Davros out of his bloody life support system and left him lying on the floor. I just thought, it really undermines the whole Genesis scene where Tom Baker just presses the micro switch to like switch him off, and next minute Peter Capaldi is like tearing him out of his life support system, leaving him on the bloody infirmary floor.
Sorry, talking about the costumes though, and the changes. I prefer that look, that iconic Tom Baker Fourth Doctor look, to the one we've just had in Leisure Hive. Great, June Hudson, great. She did a great job, and in many ways, she was reflecting the burgundy of his jacket in Robot, really. But it just became too polished. And as I know, a lot of the people who've been on my streams before, I've said this is when the costume started. But yeah, that's the iconic look. And if you put them two, I mean, mind you, I'm anti mashups. I wouldn't mind that mashup. Scooby Doo, not on the TARDIS, but meets K9. They might cop off. But if you look at look at good or beautiful Doctor Who Weekly versus the Doctor Who Monthly, if you look at the two costumes, I have to say it's the first one for Tom Baker. Sometimes I think change RTD is not needed. JNT, go for it. You needed to ramp up the series. I totally respect that. But maybe change too much. Maybe the question, in my case, the question marks is a no-no.
How much better is the Bernard Lodge logo there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never was quite sold on the neon tube logos.
It ages it. more than the Bernard Lodge logo, doesn't it? And we've gone back to it, of course. Dwayne, have you got an opinion on our good old logos and all the rest of it?
Yeah, I've always got a soft spot for the '80s logo. That I was just at the right age to be bedazzled by it all, and because we had so many repeats in Australia of all the older episodes, when the new ones came out, that was pretty wow. There was a big wow factor there because they did look so different. Particularly in season 18, and then when the new Doctor came along too. So I didn't see much of Peter Davison. I saw all the lots of repeats of all the other Doctors, but not not all the other Doctors, but just the third and fourth. But yeah, so I do have a soft spot for the neon.
Yeah. Well, let's move away from Leisure Hive now. In Screen Rant, it's really just the picture. Doctor Who's RTD shares Sutekh return concept art. So he's an illustrator, and you know, I'll give him credit. He does some good drawings, and he is a visual. He therefore does think visually, but obviously he he didn't tweet this. It was on Instagram. My sketch for the design team of what Sutekh and TARDIS should look like, and here it is. There you go. You'll see it on the right there. And then again, we've talked about by generation and RTD saying, you know, if it's impossible, we do it. The Sutekh hugging the TARDIS, you know how many jokes are out there. I've just, for the sake of argument, put my own little puppet one on, and I've put the runaway bride one down the A road there. I mean, honestly, it doesn't get any better, does it? The more times we look at it.
But he clearly went out with a brief to remove the Egyptology from, you know, or the misappropriating or whatever they call it now of, you know, the cultural iconography that had been used. So, you know, I just have this feeling that he'd turn his nose up at Stargate and things like that these days.
Does that draw? I mean, as a concept art, Dwayne, I mean, he got what he asked for, doesn't he? I mean, I mean, in many ways, that is exactly what we got in Empire of Death.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. Does it look better? I don't know. It's quite different. It's more alien and less dog.
Yeah, this is where, you know, when he says we've got to go bigger to be interesting. Right, he obviously did decide to go for this, and that the TARDIS is dwarfed. Oh, and yes, he's a god. So yeah, I get that. But we had the Black Guardian and the randomizer. You know, that's all we needed was a little.
He was only a god to the Egyptians. That's the thing. He wasn't an actual god. He was an alien.
Oh,
That's the point.
Alien. Yeah,
that's the point that Russell seems to miss. That he was never a god in Pyramids of Mars. He was an alien.
Do you know what, Dwayne? You're reminding me that I've almost, even though I question it, I'm almost using RTD's language, aren't I? I'm falling for the propaganda. And as you know, most Doctor Who fans actually like the Scooby-Doo aspect there. Again, for some reason, Scooby-Doo kind of works on that one. So let's cheer ourselves up. This is how I'm doing the detoxes. You get a bit of bad news, a bit of whoa, and then of course we come to this. Now, this was just being talked about yesterday on one of the Doctor Who's, I think, the official stream, and they were talking about, basically the question was, where do you start in the Whoniverse? Where is a good stepping on point to introduce Doctor Who to somebody who, for some reason, God knows how, have never heard of or watched Doctor Who? So you got a few examples here. Michael Conlon, Tom Baker, Genesis of the Daleks would be a good intro. Of course, you've got a Time Lord appearing suddenly at the beginning, and time rings, and you know, I don't know. Brendan Clark on the other side says, my 10-year-old niece started with Ruby Road. She couldn't get enough of this new series, so I told her to go back and watch from Rose. 4 weeks later, she's now finishing series 3, so it obviously worked there. The Christmas invasion is mentioned in the smaller print. Juniper says, the episodes I watched that got me hooked was The Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone with Matt. I was so hooked from that double-parter. Matt says Blink, and somebody else says Love and Monsters. So I was going to, obviously, it's a key Doctor Who question, because I think when I've had discussions like this before, I tend to kind of go to something like Genesis or Talons, and I actually don't like this patronizing concept now from RTD and present showrunners, where they think we have to introduce to those thickos what Doctor Who is. Because I'm going to ask you, Dwayne, and I'm going to ask you, Cybermat, did you start watching Doctor Who at the start of a season, which was specially written for you to have a joining on point? Because I don't think any Doctor Who fans had that. Most of us started in the middle of a run. It was accidentally on, something like that. Was it explained to us? No. But I know kids, I'm a teacher, and you know, parents, this doesn't work. Kids, if kids like something, they'll go and research it. They'll find it out. They don't actually like it all laid out on some kind of do-it-yourself poster. They'll go, what's this? I like this. There's more. Right, I'm going to go and... You know, that's how it works. So this RTD concept that you have to set the season, do a reboot, explain all the basic stuff, start again. No, you don't. You just have to write a blooming good story. The Church and Ruby Road, I disagree with that one as a choice. It was pantomime. It was Jack and the Beanstalk. It was a song and dance routine. And there was hardly any plot. And it was all soap opera family stuff. Where was the actual Doctor Who story? So, Dwayne, I'll come to you first. What would your choice be for... Look, hello, Dwayne. I've never watched Doctor Who. Why do you like it so much? What should I watch?
Oh, it's tough because I don't think I should show my favorite episodes to people. Like I've showed someone like The Talons of Wang Chiang before. That's my favorite story of all time. And I think it might be a bit long for someone new coming on. And I love the Victorian era. Anything Victorian era, yeah. I just adore, but it's not for everybody. So if I was showing a newbie, there's two. I'll pick two. The first one would be probably The 11th Hour, because I think that encapsulates everything that good Doctor Who is throughout the whole series. It's got good characters, the good companion character stories. You've got Amy coming in. Even Rory's got a good story in this one. The Doctor, he's just regenerated, so you've got him coming to terms with himself. So you get the concept of regeneration. You've got the fear factor. Things just out of the corner of your eye. This is where Moffat is a genius when it comes to Doctor Who. He understands Doctor Who better than RTD, because it's the crack in the wall. It's those things you could just see out of the corner of your eye. That's what makes the kind of thing that makes Doctor Who really scary. And you'll get that with a younger person, and someone who's older will still get a sense of that as well. And it's a really, really good character development of the Doctor finding himself. And by the end of it, you know, you've got those sequences of all the older Doctors coming through, and then Matt Smith pushing through saying, I'm the Doctor. I think it's probably the best episode to introduce a Doctor, particularly in the new series. That's for sure. I think it's the best one that they've ever done since it came back in 2005. But yeah, I think it would probably... Even though it's not my favorite story, I think it's got all the best elements of Doctor Who. As far as my second pick, I'm going to pick something very strange. You'll find I'm going to pick the animation of the Macra Terror, because I'm picking that because of my kids. My kids, when I throw on the animations, my kids will gravitate to the TV. And they will watch. And I think the Macra Terror is probably my favorite animation. My daughter's 8 years old, and she loves Jamie. So that's the appeal of those episodes is pretty timeless. I've watched, Web of Fear previously, so they love the Invasion, so they love the Cybermen. Maybe not. The Moonbase is probably one that because it's a bit shorter. Is great for the kids as well. But yeah. The Macra Terror, they really liked that, and they asked to watch that again. So I would potentially, if there was younger people, like 8 to 10, I might throw on the Macra Terror as one of those. And in actual fact, with Fraser coming to our live event, I was working on an intro video, putting all clips of stories that he's appeared in. And I was showing my daughter that today. And I've got a clip of Jamie going up Rapunzel's hair from The Mind Robber. And instantly she said, "Can we watch that one right now? Can we watch it?" So she was intrigued by that, 5-second clip of that. So yeah, Second Doctor is great for the young kids.
Isn't it interesting? You mentioned the animation, which obviously shocked me in Cybermet when you first said it, but it made me think that when the animated Star Trek series was on, I loved that as a kid. I mean, Star Trek was on TV as well as the actual program, but I actually really, as a kid, loved the Star Trek animated series. So I just wonder if there's something in that. Partly of what you're saying, that it's a nice access point in some way. It's also an atmospheric story, Macra Terror, anyway, isn't it? But wow, it is interesting. So as I come to you, Cybermat, I can hear what Dwayne's saying about the 11th Hour. Obviously, is a hell of an introduction story, and the thread of saying Spearhead, Mask of Mandragora, Unearthly Child Part 1, Rose. There's loads being mentioned, but I was just thinking you can have two choices here. One is like Dwayne, you have your what's the best introduction story, but then I always think some of the introduction stories can be a bit tamer, can't they? And actually, if a kid just suddenly discovered Genesis of the Daleks, surely they're hooked, and it's hooking them first, isn't it? But anyway, what are your choices, Cybermat?
Look, I get the 11th Hour. That makes sense. I think for me, Rose is a really good jumping on point because you just don't need to know anything, and you kind of led into it all through the journey of Rose herself. And for me, I watched it firsthand because my wife, who had actually met me well before the relaunch, but what she'd seen of classic Who up till then, it didn't have a hope in hell of capturing her. But when she saw Rose, she was hooked into Christopher Eccleston pretty much immediately, and she watched right through from there on in. So, from my perspective, Rose worked as a hook for people that would never have come to the original show.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because that's when there's been a gap of many years from Doctor Who being broadcast. When Doctor Who's on all the time, well, I say all the time, I'm exaggerating, but we had the usual season runs and all the rest of it. Now, the Thread are also sharing their first ever real Doctor Who experiences because obviously something grabbed us. So the question was obviously if you were introducing a friend, and we've mentioned that, I still think I'd be going to something Tom Bakerish, I think, really from the early years where it was gripping and actually quite serious. But my next question, since the Thread are alive to it, is what grabbed you about Doctor Who in the first place? Because can you imagine some of the Doctor Who episodes, if they were your first experience, you might have turned away. I mean, I was lucky. It was the Sea Devils coming out of the water. Actually, it was a Sea Devil in the Sea Fort, and it was good lighting. The Sea Devil was agile. It was a monster that was agile and fast and had a gun on it, and the creepy shadows and that horrible scream from one of the people on the Sea Fort, all that stuff. Then, of course, I'm coming out of the water. I'm one. Brilliant mask by John Friedlander. Fantastic. I was one. Scared me to death. So, obviously, why would I go and watch anything else on TV after that? That really thrilled me. And of course, the Daleks I must have come across quite soon after, because I was just watching Death of the Daleks Part 1 last night. And I was saying to my partner, I said, this is my most memorable episode as a kid. I remember sitting next to my mum. It's the only time I remember being with my parents. And my mum had read the title. I didn't know that it was called Death of the Daleks. She was waiting to see the thrill on my face when they come out the spaceship. And then I went, whoa, shock. So let's and then I'll come to the thread and we'll share your experiences of what made you stick with Doctor Who. Something grabbed you. So Dwayne, what grabbed you? Why did you not turn away? There must have been something that got you.
Well, it's interesting because we actually did this on my podcast recently. We did a commentary episode of Spearhead from Space, which was the first story I ever recall seeing. And it was episode 2, the cliffhanger from episode 2, and which doesn't involve any of the main characters. It's a guest character who's being threatened at the end of episode 2, and it was the absolute terror that he felt being menaced by that Auton in the plastics factory.
Yeah.
The look on his face, and I still remember the chill up my spine of that fear. And then I remember seeing the shop window dummies coming out. That scene had similar kind of feeling as well, and the Autons were just the creepiest looking things I've ever seen, because you could relate them to what you could see when you went out to the shops. The mannequins did look like that in those days. So that was it, and it was that fear, and you called it a thrill, and I think that is the thrill. That it's not terror in as much as you're scared so much you're going to wet yourself. It's fear, a thrilling kind of fear, just like you get on a roller coaster and you get thrown around all over the place, and you go up high and get thrown down a 90-foot drop, a 90-degree drop. It's the same kind of thing. Why do you go on a roller coaster? It's for the thrill. And you've got that safety of what's over your shoulders. Just with Doctor Who, you've got the safety of being between the TV screen and what's inside it. So that was my experience anyway.
I mean, as I come to you, Cybermat, it is funny, isn't it? I have only got, like I said, one memory of being with my family. And maybe what Dwayne's saying is true, which is you're so thrilled that actually I'm absorbed by the program. I'm not aware of my surroundings. I'm just right in on the program. Keep an eye on that Sea Devil. The door's there in case a Dalek comes in. I'm zoned in for these 25 minutes. So what started you watching Doctor Who rather than thinking this is just another show that comes on and off?
I have fond memories very early on of Robot. Seeing the Pertwee into Tom transition, and then the whole episode that ensues from there. And that whole season 12, I think, must have been heavily replayed through my childhood on TV, because I must have seen it multiple times, and I remember it so well. So that whole Hinchcliffe era, and I think, I don't know, it's just something that speaks to the right kind of fan, I guess. I think if you can sit through the pace of those episodes and things, you're going to do okay through classics. So, and I guess these days I kind of think there are, not everyone's going to sit down and revel in classic. I think they should, but I think true fans are probably people who do get hooked on New Who and go back and digest the classics, because there's a lot to appreciate there.
Well, I'm fascinated because, like I said, I've just started watching Death of the Daleks again after watching Leisure Hive, but we did a one-off the other night. We watched The Waters of Mars. And I haven't watched The Waters of Mars for ages, but I knew it was one of the better specials. And so I thought, right, it's time to just watch it as a nice one-off. And I don't watch many Tennant or Matt Smiths because I hate this one-off element. They don't get me. So we watched The Waters of Mars, and even though my partner said, yeah, but we don't like the bit at the end, the Dr. Victorious. But actually, we then said, that's a good one-off Doctor Who story. It had jeopardy. It had tension. It actually, the Martian base is quite well realized. Yeah, that robot, which is a bit like Jimbo, there's a little bit of comedy there with the nonsense with the flames and the tire tracks. But I actually thought, as a starting off point of more recent times, The Waters of Mars those faces and the water and that horrible way that they were possessed by the water when they shake and then go limp. I thought that wasn't a bad one, you know. When I look back, I thought that just about does it. It does have an RTD writing credit with Phil Ford. But yeah, because we always...
No, that was terrifying. It was terrifying, wasn't it? And particularly that chase, when they started chasing the Doctor out of that room, that was a very well done scene, that chase. And then he gets through the door, shuts the door, and they sort of get up to the glass on that door. That was really, really well done. Very, very scary. It's one that I don't think I've ever shown my kids because I just think it's too scary.
Yeah.
It's got a pretty dark ending too, doesn't it? Really, I mean,
True.
It's good. It's good timey-wimey in that way. You know, this is the time travel I like, and this is when I kind of liked the RTD era slightly, because I thought, yeah, you're making me think about Doctor Who, and you know, he can be. It's interesting because you got the Time Lord victorious, and then Stephen Moffat had him stood at Stonehenge shouting at every spaceship, "Take me on," and that I found more problematic as a Doctor. He's an anti-hero. He's not a superhero. Although I love Matt Smith. So yeah, it's interesting.
Can I just point out that Matthew Pounder in the comments says suicide was inappropriate for the series. Can I just mention Image of the Fendal?
Yes, we're all watching our season 15s. I'm still watching.
And they're great for that reason.
I haven't seen Matthews yet. I'll come down to that because
and the Doctor was inappropriate.
Yeah, that guy from CT Alpha, Remembrance of the Daleks, I remember seeing as a small... Oh, God, aren't you lucky? I can remember seeing the Dalek hovering up the stairs. Oh, I can imagine as a kid seeing that. Yeah.
I remember kids in my year that didn't watch Doctor Who. They all saw that and were talking about it.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. You see, like I said, I was at uni, so of course you're now cynical. And you think, oh, well, that's good. They've done that. But you see, the Dalek going up the stairs, great, at last. It was a cliffhanger, but the start of part 2 is my problem as an adult watching it, which was the Dalek just says, exterminate, exterminate, you know, multiple times when the Doctor is a sit-in duck. The door then opens and he's on, and then they shut the door on the Dalek. I mean, this Dalek is he putting all his power in the elevation? Because just shoot the Doctor. I hate cliffhangers that are dragged out like that. And it's actually something we said about the Leisure Hive when we watched it again.
Character building, Brendan. It's there for a reason.
We
made us better people for being able to.
We couldn't believe when we watched the Leisure Hive back that those reprises of the cliffhanger, God, you got a hell of a chunk. It was quite a few minutes. Stylistically, that wasn't...
Is that called padding?
Yes, I think it's called bad timing. So
we ran out of budget.
We've got the unmentionable in our thread, Sir who's saying, when's the jumping off point for Doctor Who? Well, I'm still here. Dwayne's still here. Cybermat, you're still here, aren't we? I mean, I'm still going to watch it. I'm just more critical, that's all, and a bit of an angsty place, that's all.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to annoy the crap out of RTD, lay down those impossible challenges.
Yes, I'm just going to keep showing these inconsistencies. Left-Handed Jedi, Silence in Library is a good modern era episode. Well, I mean, I had that shot then, didn't I? That somebody mentioned it was the other Weeping Angel story, two-parter, The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone. I haven't seen that for a little while, but I have seen Blink lately, and Blink, I actually think, has it become legendary for various sins, of course, but it's not a Doctor Who access point, is it?
Yeah, I don't.
And it's also one of those stories. It's also one of those stories that, it has the maximum impact on the first viewing. You never quite get that back ever again.
Yeah.
So once that is gone, as good as it was the first time, you're never going to get it again.
Yeah, good. That's a good point. It is one of those, and I think RTD does a bit more of that, which is the first time you watch it, you kind of accept it, especially in his first era. Second or third time, if you're lucky, it doesn't seem to work. Just before I come to you, Cybermat, Peter Harrington, as you know, is my twin. Yes, Brendan, that echoing on the sea fort definitely hooked me. I think we must be the same age, and we've been through the same Doctor Who experiences, because me and Peter are Doctor Who twins. Cybermat, what were you going to say then? Sorry.
Oh no, jeez.
Have I killed your thought?
I filed it under
Oh,
to be continued.
you shouldn't be having a senior moment. That's for me. Ezra Goldstein, the very first episode of Doctor Who was The Monster of Peladon. Now, you see, Doctor Who fans tend to slag Monster of Peladon. And I sit there thinking, well, I enjoyed it as a kid. I have to say, I don't know if it's Doctor Who snobbery, fan snobbery. I like The Monster of Peladon.
I'm going to give a commitment after my comments last week to rewatch Curse and Monster of Peladon, just so that I can have a more informed opinion, because I've clearly didn't have my head across the detail last week when I had formed opinions and filed it, but I couldn't recall why I backed up against it so hard.
Right. Well, just before we move on, we've got Sean Cryer, the Daleks from Power, demanding their power. Grabbed City of Death, says Matthew Pounder. Oh God, I mean, I was a little bit older then. I was taping it then, but I'm trying to imagine being a bit younger watching City of Death with the Jaggeroth and the face, and the Professor Kerensky being killed quite early on. Ooh.
What about? See, it's a bit like the Blink logic of it being a jumping on point. Like, I think this was the point that I'd forgotten about, but what makes those episodes great with the iconography of the TARDIS and things like that, it only works if you've got the background knowledge of the Doctor and the TARDIS and things like that. If you don't have any of that, I just don't think the impact's there. I don't know. There's a few episodes like that where people go, "Oh, that's a great jumping on point," and it's like, no, I don't think you're going to get the impact if you don't have the background already established in your head canon, so to speak.
I'm looking at Babette Bombshell's comment. I was a latchkey kid. That's what I was called, a latchkey kid, because my mum and dad were working, and we'd see ourselves into the house from secondary school before any social workers kick off. I was a latchkey kid who watched Doctor Who before my parents came home. Gosh, so you must be in another country, because, of course, I'm saying that. Saturday, I wasn't at school, so, of course, it would have all been arranged, but I'm interested, because, God, to think there's nobody else in the house but you're watching Doctor Who. That's a bit different to knowing your mum and dad are in the kitchen making the tea. And there's a light on in the hallway. You know, that classic one, just in case. But I have to say, Sea Devils, I was only 3, and I was potty trained, but I refused to go to the loo because the hallway was dark. So they wheeled the potty out because I refused.
Is Babette saying he's not allowed to watch it? Wasn't allowed to, or
no? I was a latchkey kid who watched Doctor Who before my parents came home, or at 11 p.m. after they went to bed. My mother thought I would go into medicine because I watched shows about doctors. Well, or an English teacher, because the language is so well taught. Barry Stroyd, hi-yo. There was something about the British sci-fi shows of the era. Personally, I can't touch my belt buckle without wishing I could jaunt somewhere. I know there is something about that pure escapism. I really do wish you could do that. Terror of the Autumn, says Raymond Williams, was my jumping on point. What did that? I mean, I know it's the start of another series, but a hell of an introduction, wasn't it? The Master, the
good start.
Oof. And the shrinking.
Just speaking about jaunting, I wonder if anyone can remember Battle of the Planets. I used to watch that show, and I used to transmute.
Yep. What was he called?
Watch up and try and
What was the baddie called again?
He was he's from Planet Spectrox, wasn't it?
Caves
and it was what was the baddie's name? Zoltar.
Yes,
that's what it was.
Yes, it was our Saturday morning TV with Swap Shop, or maybe after that Saturday Superstar. We've got some great new people in the chat as well. Hello, Phil Mack. I had been checked out of the modern Doctor Who universe, but Stand Fine on YouTube got me back into it all. I know a few people have actually said that actually watching our stream has got them kind of watching again. It's interesting, isn't it? Mudcrab, Waters of Mars, rewatched this last month. Not sure if it is a good standalone, as you need to know who the Doctor is. No, I know what you mean. I said Mudcrab. Some stories we as fans say are a good introduction to Doctor Who, 11th Hour, etc. But I just say you're a kid and you're flicking through the TV screens, and suddenly you've got the monster with the water, and you're trapped, base under siege, and you just get on with it. You know, there's a bit of the Time Lordy stuff at the end, but apart from that, it's just a classic. And so that's what I mean.
I think what you're saying though, Brendan, is it has unique qualities that give a casual watcher something that they're not going to get necessarily in lots of other shows. So, it is a good hook in that sense that it's going to give you a scare and keep you engaged enough for you to go, wow, this might be a show that I'd be interested in.
Because actually, if you think about TV now, where's the scare TV? I'm not quite sure where it is. It's all become a bit, safe zones, safe spaces. Nobody can be insulted. You can't have comedy. Where's the TV? So let's have a look. Now, I hope my two panelists here will join us on this. Obviously, I'm going away, getting married, and off to America for a couple of weeks. There will be shows on here. One of the shows we're going to be doing, and we'll record now, and I'll see if I can get Cyber Matt and Dwayne on separately. You see, is the puppet show. The Who Pets will interview you on your love of Doctor Who, but to be quite honest, they are going to ridicule your answers. And they're going to mock you. So if I just show you the intro as an advert, keep looking out for our Doctor Who chat show. Here we go. So the challenge is out there to anybody in the thread. You don't have to, you think you have to have been on a stream. They're just going to ask you why you love Doctor Who, general questions, but we've got the puppet theatre ready. I have to say everything's ready. I am not allowed on the show. You won't see me at all. From recording on the way through, they will listen to your answers and challenge you and all the rest of it. And I think it's going to be a little bit wild. So the challenge is out there. Why do you like Doctor Who? Why do you like Doctor Who? Is that really an answer? And so we'll go from there. So look out for our Doctor Who chat show in the next couple of weeks when I'm just jaunting around America. So are you up for that, Dwayne? Are you up for a challenge with the Who Pets?
I think so.
John Daly is the first cab on the rank, and he doesn't know what he's facing. And I said to him, "You won't see me, you know. There'll be none of the small talk. The Who Pets don't do small talk." So, are you, Cyber Matt? Are you up for this?
Yeah, why not?
A bit of abuse. So anyway, look out for that, everybody, please, because I'm going to try and keep streams going. Now, one of our last items there was a Doctor Who prom out there. I dare say you saw tweets about it, photographs about it. What news did you get about it in Australia, Dwayne?
Nothing official.
That's
for sure.
Just the bits.
Whatever YouTubers are talking about.
I just saw a bit on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, I listened to it. I know it's going to be shown at Christmas time, which is what RTD said in Britain. So I don't know what that means for the Aussies regarding whether the ABC show it or because I don't know if it's got the same contract arrangements with like the Disney Plus thing because it's a prom. I don't know. I really don't know how that's going to work. And as usual, the poor Aussies just don't know where they stand. But it was Catherine Tate.
I don't recall ever seeing a prom in Australia anyway.
Oh, really? None of the others?
Not that I recall.
I think I saw it on one of the box sets of
Yes,
through Apple TV or whatever for the 50th.
Yeah, you can get them. Yeah, they're on one of them, aren't they? I can't remember which one, but there you go. Good old Royal Albert Hall. I was amazed that we're going to bring it back, and I'm pleased when I heard about it. When I heard it, it was almost. I mean, I have to say, I'll go straight for the program notes now, so that you can actually see. Because in Australia, you may not have heard. You have heard the music. I mean, there's no surprise. I'll be honest with you. It's almost like the greatest hits now. It's going to wind up, don't worry. It will come in a minute. It seems to be going slow at the moment. It's happy to keep showing Catherine Tate. But there you go. I'll go big. So you've got, 15th Doctor's theme, the Dr. Donna and the Toy Maker. So a bit from Giggle, Into the Vortex, I'm the Doctor, The Life of Ruby Sunday, Valet Deckham again, A Good Man, The Companion Suite, the 13th Abigail's Song. There's a lot there that you will know. I don't know. I'm being dead honest. I was really excited to know they were doing it again. I just it didn't grab me when I started listening to it. And a few people commented that Catherine Tate, whether she was making deliberate mistakes as if she didn't know some things, even though she had rehearsed it. I don't know. There was just something. I don't know if it's been done before, and so therefore, and there was a Doctor Who concert obviously in November, wasn't there, with RTD and Moffat there and Chibnall there. So I don't know if this is just too much of the same. I mean, does it grab you, Dwayne, when you hear about this? Do you want to? I'm sure you're like me. You've got all the soundtracks and you've got the music.
It doesn't really grab me when I hear about it. First of all, I can't get to it. I'm sure that if I did go to it, I would enjoy it. I enjoy live music anyway, of any description. So I would enjoy it for sure if I was there, but it's not something that, gets me too excited.
Right. What about you, Cybermat?
Oh, look, I really like the previous ones that I'd seen. Even if it wasn't live, it's always great to see kids and families just enjoying the spectacle and the fun that they were clearly having with the live audience. So yeah, I mean, more power to them, and it'd be great to see them do more of that stuff. But yeah, we are a little left out over here, I think.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, this lady here, I wish I should have recorded her name. She's the organist, and she's playing the Royal Albert Hall organ, and she's playing Sutekh's theme. If you think of Pyramids of Mars, he was brought back from the organ music, and then she also played the organ for the Doctor Who theme. And I was trying to capture the shot.
Wasn't the Doctor summoned by the organ in Rogue?
So the organ is in, yeah. Dwayne and his private members bill.
Wrong organ.
But yeah,
Sorry, I cut you off.
This lady was, if you watch the whole thing, I think it's on TikTok or something. She is gleeful playing Doctor Who music. She's a Doctor Who fan. She's playing the organ at the Royal Albert Hall, and she is just, it's just lovely to see. She's a Doctor Who fan. She's a musician. This is her moment in the sun. And it was just lovely to see that. We had the usual jokes, the Dalek telling the composer to get off, blah, blah, blah. That was for the interval. I just don't know if it's all, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Cybermat, you talked about the kids. Now, I remember those original Doctor Who proms, and you did see kids' faces, especially with the Jadoon and that. And to see a kid thrilled by these monsters. But actually, when you do look at the audience, there aren't many kids. They are.
It's
I just think
probably
it's a
the
shame
fans
that
from
there's
20 years
no.
ago.
It's a shame there's no monsters from the like that you can take in from the current season. It's all old stuff. It's not anything that's new, is it?
Well, I'll show you the shoulder, but I take your point. Most of it is from previous. And RTD did say that when he looks at season 1, it was mostly villains and gods, and he says season 2, it's got more robots and more monsters, and I think he's realised that. But they're good old Ood. Look at that mummy. I mean, I thought that's a good one for the kids. Although, please look at the audience. There is a kid next to that mummy, but there's not many kids there. Mind you, getting to the Royal Albert Hall. I don't know what. You couldn't take your kid there. My God, it cost an absolute fortune. But yeah, I think that mummy's brilliant. But again, that's from the Moffat era, isn't it, Dwayne?
Yep.
You've got the shoulder. They did have the shoulder there.
The Muppets.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to do a Vox Pops and ask the kids who did go, is the shoulder their thing? Because I do find that a problematic costume. It just doesn't. It's like those little books when you had as a kid that you can change the faces on the bodies, and it just doesn't gel to me. The shoulder are a big problem for me. But you had your Cybermen, but you had the Cyber Lords, or whatever you call them, the Cyber Masters, being Vane and Glam Rock. How that costume makes sense to anybody who understands a Cyberman is beyond me. Now, I said this before you two lads came on. Dwayne, I know it's the Timeless Children. I know there's all them problems, but the Cybermen as they appear now, I'm sorry, this is all wrong. I mean, look at the state of that costume. I mean, that one is okay, but why would they go glam rock? Why would they go all artistic? Why would they go vain?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the Cyber Lords, but one thing I do like about the Chibnall era is the design of the Cybermen. I think they were redesigned really nicely, much closer to the Earthshot style, which I did enjoy actually.
They had moments of invasion Cybermen too when you looked at them
Yes.
from certain angles.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And
but of course those ones are very good too.
And you had some monsters on the left. No, sorry, you've got Julie Gardner, Catherine Tate, and RTD. But I did ask a question in the thumbnail and for this program, and it wasn't clickbait. Is Doctor Who as popular as it always was? Because when I heard about this, now in this shot, if you go to the left, you can see RTD in the bottom box in a big white shirt, and everybody's lining up to say hello to him. And it's the same shot widened on that top one. You can see there's a little sign saying RTD and there's an arrow. People are seeking out RTD. Now, I know some people just like to get a signature and all the rest of it, but, we are saying what we say. But look, that Royal Albert Hall is full. And I think there were 2 performances. I think there was are we getting this slightly wrong, or is it because it's a slightly different event that Doctor Who is a bigger thing and the program might be limping, but if you do an event like this, it'll always be mega scale? What do you reckon, Cyberman? I mean, I feel when I saw this, I thought, am I getting this wrong? Am I the only one who has problems with this era?
Oh, look, I think you're always going to be able to find 2,000 fans to fill a room.
Yeah.
We don't know how many comps were given out either.
Giving away a lot of free tickets.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what B-Man is saying. Free tickets. And again, I don't know. I'm not connected. I'm proud that I'm not connected. So I don't know how much. You see some of there's certain streamers that are very popular regarding Doctor Who is amazing. The BBC are amazing. RTD, we love you. Those sorts of streams. That they were there. I checked my post every day. I was not invited. Not that I would expect it, but
with the access streamers.
So yeah, Shooty wasn't there, but he was there on the big screen. David Tennant had done that before, to be fair, where he left a little excerpt. So did Jinx Monsoon. So I heard on the audio Jinx Monsoon being, I'll have to say, as I felt, OTT, pantomime, and we just got a bit more of Maestro. The shooty bit, it was audio, like I said, and all I could hear was the noise or not, and I didn't hear wild screams or anything while Shooty was on. I mean, he got applause,
Yeah,
and that, but it wasn't like Tennant, and
that
it wasn't like
highlights your problem. The fact, I mean, Matt Smith and Clara absolutely worked the audience to the billio in their prom, and they had the audience eating out of the palm of their hand by the end of it.
Oh, and there was something. Matt Smith, I mean, I think Matt Smith in the end actually did sell Doctor Who big time. There was something. David Tennant is accomplished, but there was something about Matt Smith, and I've got no skin in the game. You know, he's not my favorite Doctor, but I could appreciate what he was trying to do, and his enthusiasm and his energy, I think, sold it, and the kids got it. And as I said, as a jobbing teacher, I noticed when Doctor Who was popular, and Matt Smith got them. He really did. Yep. And I remember the screams in the prom when Matt Smith came on, and it wasn't quiet, but when Shooty was on the screen, it wasn't the same level. And that's why I'm just thinking I'm trying to measure in excitement of people. And I just don't think the excitement is there. There might be some appreciation, but it's not hype, and there's no fever pitch. So that was a shot. Mrs. Flood had a big part. It was all very, and that, I don't know. I know people say, is it Romana?
I'm so over Mrs. Flood. I don't care about Mrs. Flood.
Does that mean Brian was lurking around as well?
He probably was. It would have been good if he came on the guitar, really, wouldn't it? It would have been.
It would have.
But there's your friend, Dwayne. She was there. Katie was there.
Katie. Nice.
I mean, you know.
I'll be with her in a couple of weeks in Brisbane.
Exactamon. I thought that might be a good cue in. Go on, give it another advert. Go on, because I wanted to show that for that reason as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, if you want to see Katie, she's definitely going to be in Brisbane on I think it's about the 20th of September in Brisbane, and at this stage, the following week, about the 28th in Adelaide. Sirensofaudio.com, or all the links are there if you want to.
There you go. Well, look, she's in good form. You're going to get your money's worth. She always gives her money's worth. There's Catherine Tate. I mean, I do like Catherine Tate. She was a bit strange in this, I thought, as a presenter. But, you know, whatever. I'm not that critical. But, yeah, it did seem a little bit, I don't know. Sometimes Catherine Tate likes to just go, I don't understand this program, really. And she does all that. And sometimes it's a bit too much. But I do like her as an actress, and I do like Donna Noble more than, to be honest, any other. I'll be honest with you. But there it was, that lovely TARDIS, surrounded by orchestra and choir, doing the usual soundtracks that we hear. But what I wanted to say, just to round off, is Doctor Who is still there. This detox, if it's refreshed you, or it's actually got your angst going again about Bird Generation and Sutekh and various things, you only have to look out there. I mean, Dwayne, if it wasn't midnight, what you know, like sometimes you go, I'd like a packet of crisps, or I'd like that, you know, you just a comfort food. It may not be your favorite story, but tonight, if you were given 25 minutes to go watch an episode of Doctor Who, what's your vibe tonight? What would it be tonight? What sort of Doctor Who episode would you like to watch tonight?
I think I would probably dig out an animation. I'm a bit of a sucker for the animations. I like them. So maybe have another look at the Celestial Toymaker.
I haven't watched it yet. In fact, we nearly put it on last night, and I just wasn't in the mood. But yeah, I should do, because I'm dying to see that animation.
I'm in the camp that says that the Celestial Toymaker works really well in the type of animation that they've done. It wouldn't work for every story, but it does for this.
I agree. I've seen the stills, and I think it's a clever call.
Josh Snare's reviews made me. I think I'm gonna go and get it. After seeing his review of it, I thought, I better go and have a look.
Well, Mud Crab said fan rock. I've just seen it because we've all got the season 15 Blu-ray. Well, I'm assuming most people have the fan rock. I do love it. I can't watch it every week, obviously, because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, Cybermat. If you had 25 minutes tonight before bed, what type of Doctor Who story would you want to be watching tonight?
That's a process. I usually it takes me a while. It's like a dog walking around in his bed trying to find the comfortable zone. It takes me a bit of time to settle in.
I totally agree. We have it on iPlayer, as you know, in Britain, and I flick through from season 1, season 2, season 3, and in the end, my partner's going, "Are we going to pick anything?" And I'm going, "Yeah, but Spearhead from Satan, not sure if I want to watch that tonight." And and you go that you're trying to assess your mood and your concentration span, and then
how often when you get 5 minutes in, you're going, "No, I'm not in the mood for this. I'll try something else."
But do you know what's interesting? 2005 onwards, I do want to keep giving them a go. And I look at the pictures, the thumbnail for each episode, and I'm going, no. And it's like there's not enough there to say come back and watch on repeat to me. And that's a shame. There's lovely touches like School Reunion, of course. I like the bit with Sarah and all the rest of it, but not enough for me to watch again. And I think that's the worry about this RTD era, really. But we've got Terror of the Zygons mentioned there. Oh, yes. I mean, Terror of the Zygons. Seeds of Doom, Raymond Williams. We're hitting the big ones here. My name is Charlie. I'm the same Brendan. It takes me bloody ages. He agrees with you, Cybermat. I know it is hard. But what I've noticed in the thread is how many people are saying Blake 7. Of course, the discs are coming out, aren't there? And there's nothing wrong with Blake 7. And of course, you've just done a stream. Are you allowed to advertise? Of course you are, Cyrus of Audio. Right. I don't know what you can say, what you can't say, but basically, you've got some interesting streams coming up, haven't you?
Yes, we do. We've got this week we are doing a tribute to Pamela Salem.
Oh,
so we have we've got some new tributes from Louise Jameson, Sophie Aldred, Karen Gledhill from Remembrance of the Daleks, and Ken Bentley, who's a Big Finish director that did lots of her countermeasures stuff for Big Finish. So they're joining us for a tribute. What else have we got coming up? I've just done something unusual for my show because we deal with mainly audio. But just before I came on here, I recorded a show talking not about Doctor Who, but about the tripods, all about the tripods, because there's a new book coming out and there's a convention that's happening, which is unfortunately sold out. So if you want to go and see it, it's all sold out now. Where all the original cast, and lots of guest cast, and the producer and Ken Freeman, the musician, are all getting together for a little fan gathering. It's a smaller kind of thing, but it's the 40th anniversary. So I spoke with a couple of people involved with that for our forthcoming episode. Yeah.
And because we were talking about that before we started the show, so I didn't know if you wanted to keep it surprise. But yeah, tripods. I mean, there's a lot to talk about there. And so, we've all got discs, we've all got various things. So yes, Australia, you're tiptoeing towards midnight, so you may leave it till tomorrow. The rest of us might think tonight, tea time. I mean, we watch now Doctor Who at tea time, and we might watch it late on as well. Too. Depends.
I was going to try and get a head start on one of the Peladons, but I'm just worried I might not make it to the end.
Well, the thing is, Cybermat, and obviously being an Aussie, you don't have to do the order. I saw Monster of Peladon as a kid before I saw Curse of Peladon as a teenager. And I was a bit disappointed by Curse of Peladon because I expected more monsters. So the Monster of Peladon grabbed me because of the variety. It was, I suppose, doing the same as End of the World did, what RTD wanted you to do when you saw the Moxa Balhoun and everybody, and it was an introduction to the diet of Doctor Who. So that's why it worked for me, I think. And the Ice Warriors were good, and there were proper baddies in it rather than Curse of Peladon was a shocker. You know. So I can't keep the Aussies awake. They've got a life and they've got to do other stuff. So lads, we've detoxed. It's the weekend. It's time for us to kind of move on. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Dwayne, for coming on, especially when you've been recording today and working and everything. So thanks for that.
My pleasure.
And yes, I'll see if the Hoopits can book you for an interview.
Okay.
And Cybermat, yes, if you're up for ridicule, well, we're Doctor Who fans, we're used to it. So thanks for your time, both of you, and have a good night. See you, everyone.
Cheers, gang.
Bye.